الآن يمكنكم المشاركة في مبادرة الأيام الرقمية تحت شعار انطلق بقوة مع جوجل، والتي يتناول فيها خبراء جوجل عناوين جديدة أسبوعيا مثل السحابيات، مهارات من جوجل، أندرويد، فلتر، ذكاء الآلة، فايربيس، ديزاين ثينكينج، مقسمة إلى دورات وورشات عمل يومية بالإضافة إلى مسابقات أسبوعية. شاهد الأيام الرقمية مباشرة على اليوتيوب وشارك رأيك وأسئلتك مع خبراء جوجل، واحصل على شهادة حضور في كل محاضرة تشترك فيها. هذا وأكثر من الأحد إلى الخميس ابتداء من الساعة 9 بتوقيت دبي عبر الرابط المبين youtube.com/gdgmena.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. أهلا بكم في عدد جديد من MENA Digital Days. معكم عليان عبد النور، GT زيوزو and Google Developer Expert في جوجل كلاود. سأكون معكم إن شاء الله في من خلال هذه الحصة، أين سنتحدث عن ما هو الجديد في جوجل كلاود، ما هو ما تم خلال جوجل I/O. كان راح يكون معنا الأخ دكتور حاج أحمد نبيل، راح يكون معنا إن شاء الله في السيشن الأخرى، أين سنقوم بعمل سيشن مع بعض، وسنقوم بالكثير من الأشياء التطبيقية وسنتعلم الكل مع بعض. سأقدم لكم إن شاء الله السيرفرلس بارت، ودكتور حاج أحمد سيقدم لكم بإذن الله المرة القادمة أشياء أخرى عن الجوجل كلاود، وطبعا عديد من السيشنز. السيشن ستكون بالإنجليزي، لكن إذا كانت لديكم أي أسئلة يمكنكم طرحها، لا يوجد أي مشكلة في ذلك. Hello everyone, Zulf Lawan. Welcome to this session where we are going to talk about what's new in Google Cloud, what was announced in Google I/O. We are going to talk about the serverless. Of course, we are not going to talk about everything because cloud is so huge, so we are to focus more about some products, and then with time we will announce them one by one. And you need to understand now first what is Google I/O. So Google I/O, this is the main event where Google presents everything about what is new in Google. So they present Android, they present new Google Pixel, they present Pixel Watch, they present what's new in Flutter. So everything that is related to Google, they announce it in the Google I/O. So this is the Google event. Now, within the year, there are other product-related events. For example, the cloud, there is what is called Cloud Next. And Android, there is always also Android Summit. And Flutter, for example, there is an event special for Flutter. There is a special event for Firebase. So in Google I/O, everything is presented there. So if we want to do something about cloud, then we will present everything that was presented in Google I/O, but we will focus more about the generalities, and then in Cloud Next, we will talk deeper about Google Cloud. So today I'm going to present what was announced in the serverless, so what's new, and before I explain you, of course, what's new, I will show you what was in the past so you can compare. So the first thing we need to check is about those two products. So let me zoom, and of course, if you have any questions, you can ask them. So we will check about Cloud Function and Cloud Run. Why I'm going to show you those two products? Because this is like Cloud Functions, it's getting more like Cloud Run. This is like to simplify everything. So let's check first with Cloud Functions. So what I will do, I will open Cloud Function, but twice. Let me copy this and let me paste a new window, and let me open them side by side so you can compare. So here I will create a function. Let me zoom a little bit. I think it's clear now. Let me do the same thing here. I create a function. And by the way, what is Cloud Function? Let me draw something fast. Here is what is the role of Cloud Function. We will have other sessions about the serverless. We already talked about them, but don't worry. So serverless, why we call it serverless? This is, I have a server. I need to manage it. This is the old way. And this is, for example, even the new, the way a lot of people do that in cloud. This is, I need to rent a virtual machine, I will work on it, and so on. So this is the old way. The new way, this is, okay, there is a virtual machine, but I don't want to manage this. I just want to upload my code and work on it. And in reality, I'm not using a code, I'm using a container. So every time you hear about serverless, that doesn't mean that there is no server. There is a server, but there is no overhead and there is no management from the user. I upload my code and it scales up and down automatically. This is like, I don't have anything to manage. I just care about my code and everything will work. And this is what was called in the past platform as a service. So now it's called serverless because this is like you pay for what you do, exactly for what you do. Because you know that we call something a cloud when you have some rules. So for example, if you host a virtual machine, then it's called cloud because you pay for what you use. But you need to understand that this virtual machine, if it runs for 1 day, but people comes to your virtual machine only 1 hour in a day, you will pay for this 1 day. So that means that you will pay for 4 hours. And this is not exactly what you want. You want to pay for only this 1 hour. And this is done using containers. The good thing about containers is that they spin up, they start without taking time. And that doesn't cost you seconds or minutes that you will pay. A container, for example, if you already use Docker, you just need to run it and it runs within few seconds. But a virtual machine, you need to run it and then you shut it down to gain some money. So if people don't come to your website, you need to shut down your server. And we don't do that in 2022. So what you do, you leave it open and you only pay for the CPU and memory that was used and for the requests. So if no one comes to your website, that means that your website is not getting fired. That means that you don't pay for anything. So this is what we call a serverless. And the basic of serverless, they are containers. So I run a container and then I run many containers depending on scaling. And to manage those containers, I need Kubernetes. But in the serverless, I don't need to manage Kubernetes. I just need some platform that takes care about this. So in Google Cloud, we have those two products. We have Cloud Function and Cloud Run. So let's talk about Cloud Function first. So in Cloud Function, its objective is to trigger something. When something happens, what does it mean is that, for example, if I type this website and then hit enter, there is an event, which is an HTTP event. That means that my website got some request, which is in HTTP, that tells him, hey, run this function. So if I don't get this request, my website will not run. So it runs depending on some event, and that's what we call an event-driven architecture. Or I program some background event. I tell him, for example, if I upload something, I want you to do something. If I upload the picture to cloud storage, let's say to a disk on the cloud, I need you to do some machine learning on this picture. And this is what we call a trigger. So we need to trigger something. And this is what we call an event-driven architecture. So let's check with the old way. So this is the first generation. So we need to name a function. We need to give it a region. And as you can see, in serverless, there is no zone. Now, what is a region and what is a zone? You can check them here. So a region, this is a place. Let me open this in a new tab. So here is a region. So a region, for example, this is Iowa. All this is called a region. This is a lot of data centers. And inside Iowa, we have zones. So as you can see, there are white and there are blue. So the white one, for example, in Dammam and Doha, it will be sooner, which means that if you are in KSA, if you are in Saudi or you are in Qatar, your requests don't need to go to New Delhi or to Europe. They will just be near to you. That means that you will have a shorter latency. And every region has many zones. So when you use a compute engine, or Kubernetes, you will focus more on zones. But if you use the serverless, you will focus more about regions, because I don't want the details. I just want it to run. That's why in serverless, we care only about region. We don't care about the zones. So we don't detail this. So once I choose the region, this region is free. You know that in Google Cloud, you have a free tier. That means that if I type free tier Google Cloud, you will get what is called always free. So you will get $300 to try, or you will get something that lasts forever, at least until Google decides to change it. So if I come here, you already have the $300. And then if I come down here, and then here is what is called free tier. So every product, it has free tier. So if I come to Cloud Function, so that means that if I run 2 million invocation per month, 2 million, for example, HTTP requests, then they will be free. And this is how much resources that are free to use. And I have 5 GB of network egress. You need to understand that in cloud, you don't only pay for the resources, you pay also for egress network. That means that what you get from your machine outside, the outgoing traffic. You don't pay for the incoming traffic unless you use some load balancing. So this is the free tier. So this is the first thing. So let me come here, and as you can see here, I need to use this region to make it free. And now here is the first thing we need to compare. As you can see, I have only in the first generation, I can trigger my function using HTTP. That means that I need to run an URL, click on it, it will trigger my function. I need Cloud PubSub. PubSub is publisher subscriber. Publisher subscriber, let me explain you just something fast. This is like, I need a topic. Okay, I need a topic. So instead of notifying people directly, what I will do, I will bring people, I will make them, this is like a subscription. They will subscribe for this topic. So what I do, I will just need to publish something here, and then they will get notification. So I can, this is like a YouTube notification or anything. As long as I don't publish something, they don't get anything. But if I publish something, I decide in which topic I need. I think that you already saw that many times in YouTube, when someone tells you, can you please subscribe and don't forget to hit the bell button. So that bell button, what you do in reality, you are subscribing a topic. So every time the YouTube user creates a new content on his channel, this is called a channel or a topic, you will get notification. So he doesn't notify you directly. He just goes by some channel. And this is what we call PubSub. That means that there is someone who published and there are many people who subscribe. And that scales to millions of requests. And that's a perfect example if you want to do some shipping application, for example. So, or I want to fire my event using cloud storage. Cloud storage, this is the object storage on the cloud. That means that this is like a disk, but it's not formatted like an operating system, NTFS or FAT32 or ext4. This is using what we call an object storage. We are storing some objects, some files, let's call them files right now, but they don't have size limits. So, for example, I need to upload the picture, and then once I upload it, I want to fire some function to do some AI. So I want to detect faces or translate some text and so on. Now, Firestore, for people who are using Firebase, they know what is. So Firestore, this is like MongoDB. This is like NoSQL or NoSQL database where you store documents, where you store something like a JSON file. So you don't need tables, you need documents. Now, all the others, as you can see, at maximum, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we have 7 events. Let's check the second generation. So let me check now. Second generation, let's call it function 2. And here, as you can see, it disappeared. This drop down, the trigger. There is no. So if I come back to the second one, by default, all triggers are HTTPS. But if we check the PubSub and Cloud Storage and Firestore, there is no one. Why? Because the second generations works exactly like Cloud Run. They use what is called Eventark. Now check this out. So Eventark, if I come to this drop down, you will see that I have everything. So every event that happens on Google Cloud, you can fire now any function depending on what you did on any resource on your Google Cloud resource. For example, if I do compute engine, and then I want, for example, to fire some event each time I create a snapshot. For example, I create a snapshot for for backup. Of course, snapshots are not backups. Let's be clear. Now, if I do a snapshot and then if I create, let's come here. And where is get? Delete, create snapshot. As you can see, now these events will, every time I create a snapshot, I fire a cloud function, which was not possible in the past. So in the past, it was possible, but you needed to write some Cloud PubSub custom code. So you need to understand how Cloud PubSub works. But now you don't need to use Cloud PubSub. You just need to choose anything, any resource on Cloud, Google Cloud, and it will fire for you. So this is the first one. The second difference is that if I come to the runtime, I will find that the first generation, the maximum that I can use, that means that the maximum that this container will consume is 8 GB of memory and for 60 seconds. But now in the second generation, I find that runtime can go up to 32 GB, and I can even custom this. So as you can see, if I do something like this, that's fine. I can go here, let's put this, okay, 32, no problem. So I can go up to 32 GB of memory, which is a lot. So now this, you are not limited for 8 GB, but 8 GB, that's a lot. Unless you want something more. And in first generation, there is something new, is that if I come here, now you can decide to put your container to artifact registry, because in the past, by default, your container will go to container registry. Let me show you how thing works. So you write your code, you write your function using JavaScript or Python, and then what happens? Your code will go to cloud storage, GCS, and then in cloud storage, they go, because we need a storage, a temporary storage on Google Cloud. It goes to cloud build, because we need to convert your code to container. This is like Docker build using a Docker file. Once I build it, then I go and host it in some repository, which is Google Cloud Registry. This is the same thing as Docker Registry. Once I host it here, now if a user wants to trigger this code, he will not trigger this code. He will trigger this container. In the past, that was the default, but now you can choose to host it not in Google Cloud Registry, but in Artifact Registry. Now, what is Artifact Registry? The good news is that in Artifact Registry, it has the free plan. So if I come here, and then I come to Artifact, as you can see, you have up to 500 megabytes of containers for free every month. So if your containers are small, you don't pay for them. So this is the first thing you need to understand. So now you have the second generation where you can increase the memory, and you will have everything on Google Cloud will trigger your function. You don't need to be an expert in PubSub, because in reality, what happens here, this is like, as long as you log something, you just go and check that log. So in case something happens in that log, you just need to trigger something. So instead of programming this, now with Eventark, things get easier. So this is the first difference. So let me check if you have any questions about this. So do you have any questions about the first product, which is Cloud Function? So we can move on. So you can check, you can ask questions in Arabic, in French, in English, any language you want. So let me run a function so you can see what happens. So I will use the first generation. I want to trigger using HTTP, and it doesn't require authentication. I will save this, and then to the runtime, I want to use only 1 megabyte. This is only for test. I will give it, for example, 10 seconds. By the way, this value, because you pay for the CPU and memory, always try to make it small and then make it bigger with time. Don't put some big values here. Why? Because you will pay for the running process. So always try to make it small. What happens here, if you run something that takes 11 seconds, it will not complete until 11. At 10 seconds, it will get killed. The process will get killed at 10. It will be stopped at 10 seconds. Let's do next. Now here, if you know programming, you just need to choose Node.js and all that. So let me choose Python 3.10. And here, in reality, what happens in Cloud Function, if you choose Python, in reality, you are using Flask. So the concept is that the name that you put here, so you need to understand how Flask works to make it to better understand how Cloud Function works when you use Python. If you use Node.js, then that's fine. If you use Python, then just go and check about Flask. Now, the name you put here, this is the same thing that you put here. So if I put here, hi, then this will not work. Why? Because this entry point, it doesn't exist. There is no function that is called hello world. So here you need to put hi, something like this. Now, once you do that, let's deploy. And here you put the requirements. So if you use Python, then you just need to run pip freeze to get all the dependencies and bring them here. Now let me deploy this function. So now, of course, as you can see, I'm using Google Cloud Console. But if I want to use my own machine, then here I need to use what is called Gcloud. So the Gcloud Sdk, you just come here. Let me show you. Gcloud Sdk. And you come to this first result, and then you install it. It works on Windows, it works on Linux, it works everywhere. So they will show you how to download and install it. So everything is explained. So let me come back here. So I just need to do Gcloud and then function. And then I run my function. So let me, okay, it's uploading. Same thing here. You just need, by default, as you can see, the HTTPS, this is the event by default. That means that I just need to click on the event, on the URL to fire it. And this is that works also, by the way, require authentication and allow unauthenticated. This is, if you are using microservice, you need to do that, because we will see that later, inshallah, in other sessions, how microservice communicate between each other. Since we don't need that, we just need to trigger one single service using internet. That means that I don't need to authenticate using Cloud IAM. Now I will run it like the other one, and then here. So let's put, for example, 600 and check if it accepts it. You can see now in second generation, let's put this, as you can see, now in second generation, you can run your container up to 60 minutes, which was not the case in first generation. So let's create just one fast. And so you can see the first generation, I remember that was something like 9 minutes. That means that your function cannot go beyond 9 minutes. So let's come here. And here, let's put the big value. Let's click outside. And as you can see, this is 9 minutes. So the first generation, it was 9 minutes. Now, second generation, this is 60 minutes. But you need to debug your code. Of course, 60 minutes, that's a lot. But better to give the choice for the user. Tell him you are free. Don't be limited with time. And of course, the user needs to debug and to optimize his code to not make it run like this 60 minutes, because you will pay for those 60 minutes. And that's the concept of serverless. Okay, this is second generation. Let's put something just 6 seconds. I don't want, or 10 seconds. And then that's the same thing. I need not authenticated. And then let's do next, and then the same thing. As you can see, if I come to Python, it's still the same thing. That means that you don't need to change your code. You will still be in the same philosophy. The only thing you need to change is, if you want more resources, just go to the second generation. Don't change your code, because at the end, this is just how to run a container. So now if I deploy, now let's check about my first function, and I click on it. And I come to the event that triggers it. If I come to the trigger, it tells me your function got triggered every time you click on this link. So if I click on this link, my function will run. And as you can see, it works. Now let's wait for the second generation and check. So as you can see, this is using the first generation. This one is using the second generation. So what's going on now? My code got uploaded to cloud storage. It's building on cloud build. This is equivalent of Docker build. And it will go to cloud registry or artifact registry, and then it will run. And as you can see, I didn't pay for HTTPS. It generated HTTPS a certificate for me. I didn't pay for any HTTPS. Now let's go to the second generation and let's check about the second difference. Now if I click here, as you can see in the first generation, if I come here, I have this version, because what happens is when you use containers, this container, if I want to change, for example, there was a line, I change it from x equal 2 to x equal 3. What happens when you use that kind of logic in the past, you just need to change the code, the source code. Now, with containers, there will be another container, which means that this container, it will be replaced by a new one. That means that if people come to the new code, they get redirected to the latest container that you built. And that was the default behavior in the first generation. So in the first generation, even if you change the code, let me try this, and then come here to the source code, next, and then let me zoom. Okay, no problem. Let me upload. Oh, next, it seems that 3.9. Okay, let's create a new function, copy and paste it here. So let me create a new function and then copy and paste in the same one. So let me inline, and then I will mimic this. So let me come here. Okay, not this, I don't want that. New function. And here, save, next. And here I want Python 3.10. And here I need two files, main.py and requirement. So let's do that. So main.py and requirements.txt. Requirements.txt, this is the file that has the dependencies. So if I come here, do I need any dependencies? No. Do I need this? Let me do that. And let's come here to the main, and then here I need high. And let's change this to MENA big. And let's redeploy. Now, as you can see, I'm deploying on the old version. So what happens? Cloud function got redirected to the new one, which means that I lose the trace about my old version. It's only the only exceptions that Google function, they don't go to the latest one is when you get an error. So in case you get an error, it goes to the latest working version. But if you don't do that, it will always show you the latest version. So let me wait for this and check this out. As you can see, I don't have, it's active now, but once the version 2 got active, I will lose this. Let's just wait. It will finish, and I will not use the version 1. I will wait for this for just a few seconds, and you will see what happens. Okay, it was deployed. So as you can see, I cannot click on the first version. But in the cloud function, in the second generation, on the other hand, if I come here, as you can see, let me, sorry for zoom. If I come back here, as you can see, I cannot click on, there is no way I do that. If I come here, as you can see, I can still click on this version 2. But in the second generation, I cannot do that. Why? Because now it uses Cloud Run. So in the second generation, Cloud Function uses the Cloud Run philosophy. If you know how to use Cloud Run, this is like Cloud Function, it's becoming more and more Cloud Run. So if you want something simple, go with Cloud Function first generation. If you want something second generation, then you need to understand how Cloud Run, because how Cloud Run works. Because Cloud Run, this is what we call a container as a service. You run your container, as you can see. Here is my application. It got triggered using HTTP. And here is the difference. Check this URL. If we come to the URL, it uses Cloud Run syntax, .run.app. But in Cloud Function, if we check the URL, if I come to the trigger, it uses Cloud Function, which means that the second generation, if you use a second generation, consider yourself, you are using Cloud Run. Because in Cloud Run, if I come here, let me zoom. Now I need to edit my source code. Now, let's, as you can see, I get the interface for Cloud Run. So let me now use the old way, but still being in the second generation. To do that, I will do the same trick I did with the first generation. So let me come here, let me do Cloud Function, and let's create a new function here, but I will keep this name, function 2. So let's do that, and let's check if it will work. So second generation, so let's do, so it already exists. So to do that, now you need to use the Cloud Run philosophy. But there is something. If you use now the Cloud Run philosophy, what does it mean is that now you can manage your traffic. If you already see the session we did in Cloud Run, I can manage the traffic to do the blue-green deployment, to, for example, to tell 10% go to this to this version, 90% go to this version, and then once I'm sure about my new version, then I just shut down my old version. And then there is something that's called SLO. So SLO, this is when you want to measure how good or how bad your website is, you need to do what is called SLI. That's an indicator. And then you have what is called SLO. This is an objective. You need to reach some objective. And then you measure your indicator from your objective. And then you tell how your website is behaving, how your application is behaving. For example, you tell people, my application is running 99% a day. That means that it gets 1% rejected. 1% of the time, it doesn't work. So you need to measure this, and this is what is called the Google. So if you know the DevOps, this is the philosophy. Then at Google, they use what is called Google SRE. SRE, this is Site Reliability Engineering. This is how you measure how good your website is reliable. So you can check this website. This is called sre.google, directly sre.google, and then you get free books. So if I come to the books, you will get free books to read and download. They are free. They are made by how Google manages their infrastructure. So you will get a lot of information. Anyway, let's come back here. So as you can see, the second generation is more like Cloud Run. So let's shut this down and let's see another product. So we saw Cloud Function, we saw Cloud Run. Now, of course, Cloud Run, it triggers events because we saw that in second generation, we can't trigger anything from any event. That means that Cloud Run, that's the same philosophy as it uses Cloud Run. So this is what we call Eventark. So here is the Eventark. Where is it? Let's go back here. And this is the shortcut. Earlier, we just clicked on Eventark to create an event. Now you can directly go to Eventark. So you can create a trigger. Now the second thing that we got new in Cloud Run is this. So let's come back to Cloud Run. And now we have something that is called Cloud Run Jobs. So Cloud Run Jobs, why do we need Cloud Run Jobs if we already have Cloud Run? Let me show you a picture to make you understand why do we need that. So in Cloud Run, so we have the use cases and then we have when it will finish and then how we are going to trigger this function, this container. So if we need web service, API, and event processing, then we need Cloud Run. We deploy our container and then we run it. Now, what if we just need to do some regular tasks where we don't need some trigger, some events? Then, for example, we need to do a regular database migration, backups, we need to do some maintenance. Here, we just need to run it until it finishes. We don't have any conditions. Then here we have what is called Cloud Run Jobs, and we trigger it using either command line or Cloud Scheduler. Let me show you this. So to make it run, if I do Cloud Run Jobs, you will see that it will warn me and tells me, hey, this is still in beta. What does it mean? Is that you need to understand that when you use Gcloud and you use Run, that means that Cloud Run, it still has some beta functionalities. So here you need to do Gcloud beta. And then, for example, if I do compute, that means that I'm using some compute engine beta functionalities. And it starts with alpha and then goes to beta phase. And then once they get completed, you just need to run it directly using the Google Cloud product. So here, I just need to do beta run jobs. And it will tell me, give me the arguments. And let me this. Okay. Oops. Oh. Sorry for this. So if I do Gcloud, let me Gcloud run, beta run jobs. And let me zoom a little bit. And then it will ask me to create a job. As you can see, it's still in beta, but it works right now in one region, which is France, in Paris. So this region, Paris, this is where it runs right now. So if you want to deploy a job, Cloud Run job, it will come here to this region in Paris. So you need to take in consideration your bandwidth and all that. But it's still in beta. So right now, so this date, we are in May 25, 2022. In case you saw this, you will see this video in future. It's still in beta, but it will be generally available in a month, or I don't know. When it will be ready, we will do a full tutorial about this. Now, why we need that? We need to do some jobs, some maintenance and all that. But what if I don't want to be near my computer? here, yeah, by the way, you need to update your Gcloud. So you need to do Gcloud component and then update. It will update your new Gcloud SDK. And then if you want to install the beta, then you need, in case you use the Linux version, it doesn't contain the beta. So here you need to do Gcloud component. Let me run this. You need to do Gcloud component install beta. So it will install the beta commands until they get validated, and you don't need the beta command. Okay, now if you want to schedule this, then you come here, and if you are a sysadmin, then I think that you know what is a cron job. So let me come to Cloud Scheduler. So Cloud Scheduler, this is used to do some job at a regular time. And here it will use the, as you can see, let me zoom to the maximum so you can see that. As you can see, if you see this, that means that you know what is a cron job. On Linux, the command is called cron tab. So cron job, this is you run your script at a regular time, for example, once a week, once a year, once a month, or every 3 hours, in every day in a week, and so on. So you just need to do that. You can go and check about the documentation. So if I do cron job docs, you can have a lot of documentation about this. So you can automate your task on Linux. So it's a service that is offered by Linux, but if you go to Google Cloud, that's a service that is already available. And then you choose your time zone, because this time depends on the time zone. And then it depends on the locals, by the way. So that means that if you are, for example, you choose the first day in the week, and then you are in a country where it's Sunday, that means 0. But maybe if you are in another country where they start the day in Saturday, if you put 0, that means Saturday, not Sunday. So be careful about the country where you are running. So that's why when you put the time zone, it takes care about where you are. Okay, so this is using the new cloud, Google Cloud, Cloud Run jobs. Sorry, so let me zoom this. Now let me show you 2 new products. So you can, I will just talk about them. So the first one, this is called workflow. So let me zoom here. So the workflow, this is when you have some tasks that are asynchronous, but you want to manage them in a way to make them synchronous. That means that you want the output of something becomes an input of something. You want something like a pipeline. Here, you need this. So let me show you this example from the docs. Let me put a full screen. So let's say, for example, you want to upload a picture, a file, whatever, a text file or a picture or a video. You put it on cloud storage, because we said that this is the disk on Google Cloud. And then you trigger a cloud function using 1st generation or 2nd generation, using the cloud storage 1st generation trigger or Eventark 2nd generation. Now you do an if else. This is an activity diagram. So in case it's a text, you want to send it to Cloud Natural Language API. That means that I want to understand what is this text file, what it contains, and all this information. So we need to send it to this machine learning Google Cloud service. If it's a JPEG or PNG, then I need an image recognition. Sorry, that means that I need to run it on Cloud Vision. And then if it's a video, then I send it to Cloud Video Intelligence. And then once I do this, I need to save what I got. For example, I uploaded a cat, a picture of a cat. and then it goes to image recognition, it sends it to Cloud Vision, it says, hey, this picture contains a cat. Then I need to save this information in Firestore, in a NoSQL database. And then I end my process. So this process is done using workflows, using YAML files. We will do that in other session. Okay, and to finish, I just want you to show you this website. It's a game, and it was made specially for Google I/O. And as you can see, it's an interactive game. So I need to reconnect because it checks about some time. So here we are. So let me go to the website. It just needs some time. Okay, here I am. So it's a game on your browser. So you just go, and if we click here, you can choose any product you are interested. You can choose web, MLII, material design, Google Cloud, Flutter, Firebase, Google Maps, Android, all that. And then if I choose, for example, Google Cloud, I'm inside Google Cloud, then you can then check all the videos that the Google Cloud made on in Google I/O. So you can get, for example, some missions. This is like an RPG game. You can chat with other users, and you can check then for videos. This is like an interactive game where you can check. You can even have some challenges, and then you get a rewarding badge. All that, it's for free. It's a beautiful game. It runs on your browser, so you can check for this. And to have a full list of Google Cloud, then we will meet, inshallah, in other sessions. And by you need to understand that what is specialized to Google Cloud, that's called Cloud Next. So Cloud Next, this is an event for Google Cloud. Google I/O, they do everything there. So they show, for example, if there is a new Google Pixel phone, they will show it in Google I/O. If there is a new product that depends on Google Pixel, for example, Pixel Watch and all that, it's shown in Google I/O. So Google I/O, that's everything related to Google. But every other product, when they want something specified to some product, it has its own event. Web, Android, Firebase, Angular, everything has its own event, and bi'idhnillah, will synchronize with those events and show you everything that is new. So do you have any questions? Okay, so if you don't have questions, since this is live, if you have any questions after the live, you can comment them on the comments, and inshallah we will answer them. شكرا جزيلا لكم. الله يعطيكم العافية. شكرا ماهر, and we will meet in other session.